Welcome to Tip Thursday. Every Thursday, I bring you a live stream with a digital marketing tip that you can take back to your business. And my goal for you is that we are done in 30 minutes or less, and that you can take some actionable items back to your business. So let's get started. So today we're going to be talking about the 3-step strategy to build a private community that sells. There's been lots of shifts in kind of how we connect with people. And I think over time, when you kind of look back to COVID and gosh, what a scary time and how it kind of changed the way that we do business and how we connect with people. We connect so much more with people online than ever before. And we're in this kind of competition with social media and trying to figure out the best ways for us as business owners to be able to go and connect with people. So, the goal is, I'm going to share some tips with you about community. Again, my name is April Woodcock. I am the owner of Touching Clients, a digital marketing agency here in Connecticut, on Voluntown, Connecticut. A middle of nowhere, close to anywhere. I'm about 30 minutes from Providence. I'm about 25 from Mystic. A lot of people know Mystic Pizza and Mystic. I'm aging myself with Mystic Pizza, and I'm also an authorized local expert with Constant Contact. So I do a lot of training on behalf of Contact as well. But it's great to see everybody today. And let's start talking a little bit about kind of the reality check. Social media isn't what it used to be. And I say that, I think one of the things week to week, we talk about digital marketing projects, and social media is definitely something as a business owner you need to have a presence and a footprint there. However, it's definitely got a little bit more challenging to reach our followers. It can be very expensive with ads. There's definitely from that organic reach, meaning how many people of your followers are actually seeing your information. It's definitely kind of a declining realm. I know Meta they're rolling out something they started back in December where they're actually, they're only allowing a certain number of links in your content. Now, it hasn't taken effect for everybody, but they're really trying to get people to go to the paid verification. Obviously, they're a business. So that kind of is sucky for all of us, so to speak. It's a declining organic reach. The algorithms change all the time. As video is probably going to get you the most reach on your social media, but not everybody is comfortable with video. And we are a very, very connected society these days. I don't know about you, but my attention span is definitely shorter. We skim, we go through material much more quickly. We're way more connected. I read something. Actually, it was like a meme, right? Because I'm a Gen X gal, and kind of just the difference of the time of when we grew up and like nobody knew where we were, nobody knew what we were doing, and unless you were home and caught a phone call, that's the only way you knew what your friends were doing, or unless you walked to their house. And now everything is just online, so it's definitely it's an interesting world we live in, which creates much shorter attention spans, right? People are not paying attention as much. We're just flipping through things. So the goal for you today is really to stop chasing the attention on social media and start thinking about building a community, because this is where you can really kind of build further that know, like, and trust that you're doing. Yes, you can turn your followers into customers, but it's a little bit harder. And then you can turn your customers into advocates. But with community, you really can build momentum. And I think as humans, we want to be able to connect with others. And when you're in a community setting, and I'm talking about online community, but this also speaks true if you are part of a senior center or a fitness program. Community brings people together, and it also it creates awesome endorphins, and like you're connecting with people. It's good for our mental health. It's good for so many things. It's good for learning from one another. But community really can build momentum in your business. So we're going to talk a little bit about 3-step strategy today. So define and attract the right people, design the right environment, and then activate and amplify advocacy. And please feel free, friends, to drop questions in the chat along the way. All right, so step 1, define and attract the right people. When you're thinking about your community, you really need to decide who it's really for. I think sometimes as business owners, and I was actually in a group recently where we were having conversations with people. It was kind of an open Q&A. And people think that they can help everyone. And maybe your product or your service can help a lot of people. But the more that you can dial into who your community is really for is going to help you to define kind of everything else and attract the right people. Think about the problem that might unite them. So, is it building an online business, or is it fueling their nonprofit? Is it productivity? Maybe it's all about organization. Maybe it's all about building your art business online. These are just examples. So think about the problem that's going to unite people to come to your community. And the other thing is that why would they stay? So there's all different types of communities, and we'll talk about them here in a second. But you could have a free community. When you start talking about paid community, and even into the free, because typically a lot of people will build a free community and then they're going to build on that. And the goal is that they're going to then maybe offer a product or service. But think about why they would stay. Retention is a big thing. And it's really important because when people retain and stay in a place and feel validated and united, they're more likely to be obviously your brand ambassador, but they're also more likely to buy more from you. So think about the people that show up and engage with you on social media, that engage in your email list, that your customers that you talk to. They are going to get you the results that you're looking to as you're attracting the right people. And also kind of look at those demographics. Even if you've done social ads or Google ads in the past, go back and look at those analytics. Where are people coming from? Those are the people that are interested in what you have to offer in the content, right? So it's really about finding the people that show up all the time to whatever you're offering, that buy all the time. And then the one thing you have to remember is that it's okay to start small and build on that, right? Because it's really about quality. And I mention it a lot, but it is quality over quantity. It's nice to have quantity and people buying, but you're rotating your wheels because they're not really coming back. And a small percentage, I'm sure, is, but not everybody's coming back to buy more products or services from you. So the goal is don't build your community for everyone. You want it to be strong community. You want to have a clear, defined goal of what your community is going to look like. You want people to feel like they belong to it, that they look forward to it. Because if they do and they're connected to that community, they're more likely to be loyal to that community, and they're going to stay on for, if you have a monthly membership with an annual, they're more likely to keep staying on. And when people feel seen, they stay. And you know it as well as I do. A lot of times, I will say working from home can be a challenge, right? So I mentioned COVID at the beginning of this, but working from home, it has, especially, I'll be honest, this winter, we've had quite a bit of snow in Connecticut. I love snow, but I'm ready for the snow to go away. I miss my outdoor walks, my vitamin D, and connecting with other people. I feel like I'm stuck in the house. So I have been looking and gravitating to more live Q&As and things like that as I'm learning. But the goal and kind of my preference of, or kind of reflection to that is, people want to be seen. They want to feel valued. They want to be connected. And that's where they're going to stay if they're in a comfortable place that matches whatever the energy of is the group. So step 2 is going to be to design the right environment. So this is something that's going to go a huge way when you understand who you are building your community for, right? And what they need. So you can have many private spaces. You could have a customer only email circle where there's, and that's very kind of top level. You could have a paid membership hub. So Circle, Mighty Networks, Kajabi is one. There's multiple ones where, I have a client that works in Thinkific, and there is, there's School. There's lots of different private communities, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a paid one either. It could be that it's free. It might be a client portal where you have something built off your website and you have live weekly calls that people are listening in. A text message chain where it's a VIP, so it's exclusive to people on the inside. And Slack is a great place for community engagement. So if you're running a mastermind group, or if you're running kind of a network where where a community where you are, maybe it's a course and you have a Slack group. I've also, I've been in community forums. Oh gosh, what's the name of it? Disc, I think it is. And that is definitely where there's conversations happening based on topics. So it's a private community. Everybody's there for the same goal of learning about this one type of digital marketing strategy. And so the conversations are based on that. And this is something where anybody can create this and it's easy. Now, some people might wonder, well, what about Facebook groups and what about LinkedIn groups? And I still think those are relevant. However, you want to control the narrative as a business owner in your community. I think where Facebook has lots of changes, and I have managed lots of Facebook groups, I've seen a decline on kind of engagement in them. They are constantly changing things. So you're constantly having to adjust to different rules and themes. And I also think that privacy is a huge concern for people. They're concerned that, on these social platforms, their information is being seen. And some people just aren't comfortable, and they're not as comfortable having conversations as if you could build a private community. So you want to make sure that you're designing the right space. But I also want to remind you to set yourself up for success, right? You want to set up a community that that you can manage. If you have more than, if you have a few people on your team, you have a community manager, that they understand the ins and outs of the community that you're building. Step 3 is to activate and amplify advocacy. So your goal is to turn your members into storytellers, that they're going to tell their story. They're going to empower others based on things they've learned from your community. You want them to be referral partners. You want them to be, you want your community to be the top of mind awareness, that they've learned something where they can take it away and they're excited about their ideas and they're excited about what they're doing and they can share that with others. Case studies, and they're just your champions. They are your brand ambassadors. They are the people that are talking the most about you. And it's a great opportunity to have an affiliate program where you can build your community. So it can become profitable when you activate it. So the goal is to think of different ways that you can engage your community, because the more engaged a community, and when I use the word engage, conversation. So if you're talking about a specific topic, people are talking. They're talking in the chat, in the posts. That they're getting engaged, that they're tagging other members, that you having a conversation and they're in the chat and they're helping others out. So it definitely is something as a goal when you're looking to amplify a community, kind of win shares, testimonial prompts, definitely VIP access opportunities. People love being recognized, whether it be a small shout out or a big shout out. It could be as simple as happy birthday, and you're recognizing people on your birthdays, depending upon the size of your community, if that's something you can do. But it definitely also helps fuel advocacy, because remember, when you are selling things or when you are building that know, like, and trust, it's how you made them feel. If you make people feel positively, that they're having aha moments, they are going to be your advocates. That's what you're doing as you're building that information. All right, let's see. So how does your community sell for you? Well, it doesn't sell with pressure. It really is about trust, building that trust factor. The proof is in the pudding. So whatever you're in your community, if you're doing, so for example, I actually joined this, I joined a nonprofit community that specializes in kind of helping people to helping organizations where they don't really understand the ins and outs, like for their staff. Like it could be marketing, it could be finance, it could be whatever it is, donations. And their whole mantra is that their community starts with a free opportunity. So you can get into their community. They have great content, and they do have upsells throughout, but they do have a community place where people are having conversations. So it's building trust. And then what it's doing is, because you're learning and you're building trust, and there's kind of proof from that, because you can take actionable items from some of these free trainings. Now there's proof and there's that trust. And the other part of that is, because I trust them, I might consider purchasing live Q&A call, or they have a 3-day workshop on AI, or maybe I want to become a full member and just pay the annual fee so I get access to everything for free. But what they've done is they've created this community where you feel like you belong to something. You can have conversations. You are getting questions answered. And it's a huge thing. So definitely social proof can definitely help multiply that in answering your community and helping to sell that. So when member shares wins, results, obviously it helps to other people to buy in. So literally to buy in, that is the goal, right? And if you think about it, it definitely carries more weight than any marketing campaign, because when people are really talking, I don't know about you, but when I was thinking about this, I was thinking about sometimes when, more so in the past because it's more controlled now, but I would read reviews about businesses online, right? And I always read reviews about products and all of that stuff just to make sure that that it's going to work. I kind of have a threshold. If it's under 4.6 on Amazon, I usually don't do it unless I've read the reviews or dialed into the reviews. So what I mean by that is there was a time when things where lots of people were having these fake reviews, and it made me feel spammy, and it made it feel spammy to me, which made me lose trust and faith in thinking about buying that product. So the one thing, as you're building your community for the right people, the right audience, sharing where they feel like they're connected, that's going to carry way more weight than a marketing campaign, because they can tell their story. They're going to tell about it. They're going to say, hey, you should join the Gray Wave. Or, and I know that, and I say the Gray Wave because I work with a client that we have an online community called the Gray Wave. And when we do, we run a boot camp that's open. And then kind of when the boot camp ends, it's a community that's been, I think we're like 7 years, right? So we have this launch, we have a boot camp. And whenever we're doing boot camp and we kind of go into sell mode, and not heavy sellers, but we open the doors and say, here it is, let's join. This is your time to join. These Gray Wave members we don't even ask. They show up. They've already done this boot camp. Some of them have done it 4 or 5 times. And in the chat, they're like, best decision I ever made. They are the brand advocates that more than we could ask for. Better than a marketing campaign of me telling you, oh, this product is right for you. That is social proof. And to get that, it all comes down to making sure that your community is built for the people that you are serving in your target audience. So it's really kind of that social proof that backs that up. Reviews, testimonials, things like that can go a long way in making a decision. And I do know that from being on the part of that on the customer service end of that, I've had many people who have asked to speak with a member, or, do you have somebody that I could just drop an email with questions? And I have a lot of members to choose from to ask if they're willing to have a brief conversation. And they always are. There always are, because they look at it, the more members that we get, the more quality members that we get, the better it is for them too, because they're learning from other members, because there's networking opportunities in community. And it just feels like a safe place to have conversations and share things, because they are private. So the other thing that within a community is that objections get answered publicly. And here's what I mean. So in your private space, someone asks a question. So in your private community, and then you have a member that will reply, and then whoever is the community manager, the owner of that community, might clarify the messaging, because it could come from something that you presented in material, and also everyone offers a little bit different perspective. So instead of overcoming 20 objections privately, you address one publicly, right? So it helps reduce hesitation, and that's great customer service. Minimally, kind of, it's under 20%. People are wowed by customer service. And in a community, when you are dialed into the right audience and what you're doing, you have an opportunity to do great customer service, and your members are helping support that, which is definitely helping answer any objections that people have. Because listen, the other thing too is that you might get some negative, and you might get somebody that has a question that doesn't feel like it's in the positive light, but you can address that publicly. It's how you turn those conversations into great outcomes. So, Repetition builds trust. So, the more visible you are, the more familiar you are. And then that builds that trust and that purchase. And that's the goal, the conversion, right? Get people to the next level. In social feeds, people will see maybe a post or a comment and they continue to scroll unless they're very interested. And that's the big if. If you have 1,000 followers and only 10 are seeing your information only because they engaged on your post, that's like ridiculous in terms of getting people to see your content, right? So in your community, when you get people to buy into your community, and again, it could be free to get started or paid, they see how you think. They get to see you, they get to know you as a person, a personality. They get to see you as a leader and a mentor and a coach. They also get to see real world examples because they have other members to look at and to see what they're sharing. One of the things that we're doing when I mentioned the gray wave is that we're actually transitioning from one membership to another membership, in part because we wanted to have a member directory. This was something that was really important to members. And why did they want this? Well, it's a great way to connect with people because sometimes we're on a webinar where you don't see other people, you see them in the chat. Sometimes we're in Zoom where you get to see people, and that's a great way to connect. But the member directory also shares all the expertise that's in this community. It shares their pictures, it shares where they're from, it shows, so it gives a little more perspective to what's in the community, and people love that. And the more that people see good information, the more likely they're going to stay. And again, it's all about how you make them feel and how you make them be seen. So belonging, increased spending. When people feel seen, connected, and part of something, they definitely stay longer. They're going to upgrade faster, and they're going to reform more often. It's going to go from, let me think about this, where if they're in a community, they're going to say, how do I participate in this? How do I take the next step? And it might be that they take a baby step first. And once they move to that baby step where maybe they bought a webinar, if you were doing a paid webinar in the community, a different step. And if they have great success, then they're going to it opens up the door for them to buying more. And people come back. Typically your customers, the longer you retain them, the more likely they're going to come back and buy more services from you. So making people feel welcomed and belong, those introductions, those, check-ins kind of on your community, getting people in the conversation is going to go a long way in kind of building that momentum. So the other thing about a community is that you're going to launch to warm buyers. So when you're selling a product or selling a service or selling that next level, maybe it's a coaching program, they're no longer cold, right? I talk a lot about collecting that email address. And when people, they sign up for your guide or they sign up for your checklist, what ends up happening is now they've raised their hand and they're warm. Just the same thing when they've joined your community. When they've joined your community, you've warmed them up. They've already started to experience what you offer. So instead of a cold launch where you're like trying to convince people to turn the dial to buy into whatever you're selling, you've already had them experience. You've already done the cold launch. You've got them in your community. And when you have them in your community, it's more inviting because they're already warm. They already know about what you offer, what you can do to help them. And they have all that social proof of all the members. So you're not persuading them, you're inviting them. And people like to be invited to things. And that is where you are going to build your sales in a community. So kind of just the wrapping up because look, I'm at 2:24. I love it. I'm doing this in 30 minutes, friends. I'm really trying. So the revenue formula. So community equals trust. Trust equals confidence. Confidence is ka-ching, ka-ching conversion. And it really is about making them feel that they belong to something and that they're feeling inspired and uplifted. And that's going to help you to create loyalty and that retention. And that's how you're going to end up determining your lifetime value of your customer. But it really is about your first step is getting them into the community. Once they're in the community, they've already warmed up to you. So now you just need to do your job and make them feel seen and heard. And that's going to pay it forward over time. So in terms of stabilizing revenue, it's going to help improve retention. It's going to increase upsells because again, people tend to come back and buy more from if they're your current client. It's going to help boost referrals. And if you are selling in a community, a lot of these community platforms, if you're going beyond email or text messaging and you're buying into like a Mighty Networks or a Circle, they have affiliate links. It's an opportunity for people to make revenue too, even if it's a small amount. If it helps with their membership fee, that's a great thing. So the other thing too is it definitely makes launches easier, and I can speak from experience on that, where the Gray Wave, again, we're on our 7th year. I think it's 7. I don't know why I'm stuck on 7, but 7 is a lucky number. And what I can say to that is every launch gets a little bit easier. Here's why. It's not just about, it's because we learn from our community, right? Our community gives us feedback. We learn from the analytics. We learn from what they've learned, the feedback that we get, because we take that seriously, and it improves every launch that we do that much more effective. It also is helpful. Like I mentioned, they get in the conversation and they're our social proof. We don't even have to ask for it. They're telling people how great this is. And many times when we're in the middle of a launch, I have so many members that will say, oh, is there a link? I have a friend that definitely needs this. So they are your social proof. So I'm not sharing with you something that I haven't experienced. I know that it can be done. And again, it kind of goes back to the baby steps, friends. You just need to make sure you're understanding who your community's for, what they need, and then don't get discouraged if you don't have 100 members right away. Build it. Momentum. The goal is momentum. And sometimes it's actually, even though it might be a little slow takeoff, it's sometimes better because it helps you to get your ducks in a row. But it is about building momentum. And that is going to, in the end, help create predictable growth over time. You know, the more members you get over time, you can decide how you want to launch your membership. Sometimes I see people that just have ongoing memberships. And then I see memberships where, like in the Gray Wave example, they open it twice a year. I've seen it where sometimes people only open it annually, and then they have a wait list. They have a landing page where they're creating a wait list. So it's kind of creating that little bit of scarcity, kind of little bit of urgency. But the other thing on the flip side of that, although that's creating urgency of FOMO, that fear of missing out for people to want to join your community, for the people that are managing the community, that's often nice too, because you're getting a break from launch mode, and you're getting to know the members that come in every cohort that you launch. So communities can be bountiful. I don't, I have a lot of experience in Facebook groups and LinkedIn groups. And although I see relevance to them, I definitely think that if you are a business owner that has kind of formulated, communities in these Facebook groups, I would encourage you to start looking at community other places to draw people. You have more control over it in the end. That's at the end of the day, you have more control, and Facebook can't make a change on you that's going to shut you down. You have access to all of whatever and obviously they're paid platforms. They do have some free with minimal, or it's free while you're building it. And then you can, once you start getting paying members, that's a model that they use where then it becomes paid for. So just things to consider. All right, my friends, I appreciate all of your time today. And look, 2:28. So I'll see if there's any questions here, but I'm so glad that you're here today. All right. Okay. Well, I don't see any questions. So it's been great to see you on this Thursday. I'll look forward to seeing you next week. And if you are catching the replay, feel free to drop a question and just at Touching Clients, and I will get that notification. All right, my friends, make it a fantastic week, and I will look forward to seeing you next week. Take care.